The internet, a vast and unknowable expanse. Within its hidden depths, whispers travel, stories of the forbidden, legends of the damned. One such tale spoke of a website, a place known only as the Unblinking Eye. It was not something you stumbled upon, it had to be sought out, found through encrypted networks and hidden forums. A digital labyrinth with a terrifying prize. Those who spoke of the Unblinking Eye were few and far between. They told of an image seared into their minds, a single malevolent eye that seemed to follow your every move. They described a feeling of dread, a sense of being watched that lingered long after they had logged off. Some dismissed it as a creepypasta, an internet horror story meant to scare the gullible. Others, however, believed it was something far more real, far more sinister. They warned of the dangers of looking too long, of delving too deep. They claimed that the Unblinking Eye was not just a website. It was a gateway, a portal to a realm of pure terror. But curiosity, like a siren's call, often drowns out even the most desperate warnings. Our protagonist, a young man named Alex, was drawn to the unknown. An internet explorer by nature, he spent his nights navigating the darkest corners of the web. He had heard the whispers, the hushed tones talking about the Unblinking Eye. At first he dismissed them, but the more he learned, the more intrigued he became. The challenge, the sheer taboo nature of the website ignited a spark within him. He had to see it. He had to experience it for himself. He began his search, his fingers dancing across the keyboard, delving into the deep web. He spent countless hours, his eyes burning from the screen's glare, following every lead, every dead end. The deeper he went, the more unsettling the internet became. Strange images flashed across his screen. Encrypted messages hinted at a world beyond comprehension. Fear, a cold knot in his stomach, began to grow. But it was a thrilling fear, intertwined with an almost addictive curiosity. He was close. He could feel it. And then he found it. A single link buried deep within a forum dedicated to the occult and the unexplained. The words, written in stark white against a black background, sent shivers down his spine. The Unblinking Eye. Hesitantly, his finger hovered over the link. A wave of dizziness washed over him. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He knew that clicking this link would be a point of no return. Yet, some unseen force compelled him forward. He clicked. The screen went black. For a moment there was nothing. Then, slowly, an image began to form. A single eye, large, veined, and undeniably malicious. It filled the screen, its pupil a black void that seemed to suck the light from the room. Alex stared at the eye, his breath catching in his throat. It was hypnotizing, terrifying, and utterly captivating. He couldn't look away. He didn't want to look away. A low hum emanated from the speakers, growing louder with each passing second. His vision blurred. The room around him seemed to warp and twist, the lines between the digital and the real world dissolving. He felt a cold hand close around his own, his skin tingling where it made contact. Panic surged through him, but it was already too late. The eye had him. Section 4. A descent into madness. From that moment on, Alex was never the same. He became withdrawn, isolating himself from friends and family. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by long nights staring into the abyss of the Unblinking Eye. The website was no longer just a website, it was his entire world. The eye followed him everywhere. When he closed his eyes, he saw it. When he looked in the mirror, it stared back at him. He began to see things, horrifying images that flickered at the edge of his vision. His apartment, once a sanctuary, transformed into a prison of shadows and whispers. He was trapped, ensnared in a web of his own making. His reflection in the blackened computer screen showed a stranger. His face, once youthful and full of life, was gaunt, his eyes bloodshot and wild. He was losing himself, his sanity unraveling like a threadbare tapestry. The line between reality and nightmare had become hopelessly blurred. The eye had burrowed its way into his mind, feeding on his fear, his sanity, his very essence. Section 5. Reality distorted. The real and the digital intertwined. His apartment walls pulsed with a faint, sickly light. Whispers seeped from the cracks, murmuring his name, echoing his deepest fears. The eye was a cruel tormentor. It showed him glimpses of his past, twisting happy memories into nightmares. His childhood dog, now a grotesque, snarling beast. His loving parents, their faces contorted in masks of anger and disgust. His apartment, once familiar and comforting, was now a labyrinth of shifting hallways and endless doorways. Every surface seemed to writhe and pulsate, the air thick with the stench of decay and something else, something ancient and evil. He was lost in a digital hellscape of his own creation, guided by the malevolent gaze of the unblinking eye. He tried to escape, to tear himself away from the screen, but the eye held him captive, its pull irresistible. Every attempt at resistance was met with increased torment, his physical and mental state deteriorating with each passing moment. He was no longer in control. The eye was. Section 6. The abyss stares back. He saw things. Horrific creatures with eyes like burning coals crawling out of his monitor. The air grew heavy, the temperature plummeting to an unnatural chill. His reflection in the screen no longer resembled him. It was a hollow shell, a puppet controlled by the unseen forces behind the unblinking eye. The hum from the speakers intensified, morphing into a cacophony of whispers and screams. He recognized those voices. They were his, echoing his darkest thoughts, his deepest fears. The eye, no longer content with simply observing, began to bleed into his world. Tendrils of darkness, cold and slimy, snaked out from the screen, wrapping around his arms, his legs pulling him closer. He struggled, but it was futile. He was no match for the power of the unblinking eye. It was then, in his final moments of sanity, that he understood. The unblinking eye wasn't just a website, a digital entity. It was a gateway, a portal to another dimension, a dimension of pure, unadulterated terror. And he was about to cross over. Section 7. Eternal Captivity. His vision swam. His apartment, the world as he knew it, dissolved into a swirling vortex of darkness. He was falling, tumbling endlessly into the abyss. He screamed, but the sound died in his throat, swallowed by the void. Then, silence. He opened his eyes. The computer screen was dark, the unblinking eye gone. But it didn't matter. He was no longer in front of the computer. He was somewhere else. He was trapped in an endless black void, the only light emanating from a single giant eye that hung suspended in the darkness. The unblinking eye. He was trapped with it, alone in the darkness for eternity. He had become another victim, another soul claimed by the digital abyss. His sanity, the last vestiges of his former self shattered. He was lost, consumed by the madness. The unblinking eye had claimed him, body and soul, and in that moment he became one with the void, another lost soul forever imprisoned within the digital nightmare.